And ladies and gentlemen, from one person who's broken the mould to a woman who I'm sure you agree has broken the mould, I want to do something and break the mould again by just changing up the format a little bit and in conversation with Kanya King. So let's just, before we talk about the MOBOs, I just want to find out a little bit about your story. Tell me, from your family background, was entrepreneurialism, was that part of your background? Where did it spring from?
Well, my mother came from Galway in Ireland. My father came from Ghana. And to be honest, they must have shown an entrepreneurial flair to come from their home countries to this country and basically pursue their dream at a very young age. Having said that, anytime I wanted to do something in business, my mother gave me 101 reasons why I shouldn't do it. So I'm sure we're all familiar with that. I mean, she wanted me to be a teacher, and I left school at 16, so I failed in that aspect. So I stopped telling her anything, and because I'm the youngest girl of 9 children, I bought my first property at an early age. So that was my first business venture, because I wanted to get away from my sisters and brothers. And because it was a matter of survival, you know, when you grow up sharing a room with 5 other sisters and brothers, it's pretty awful. And being the youngest girl, getting all the hand-me-downs. And in those days, it wasn't vintage, you know, clothes. It wasn't very fashionable. It was all about jumble sales. So I kind of, you know, it was about, from a young age, whatever, I had to make my own money, save, and basically help my mum pay the bills.
I'm with you. And from there, and from that, you know, from your first property and so on, where and when did this idea of the MOBO Awards emerge from, and how did you go about it?
Well, I mean, the MOBO Awards is an event that I actually really wanted to attend and be part of. I never, ever wanted to organise it. But you know, I tried to convince many other organisations. I tried to convince MTV and the Brits and lots of other major ceremonies that they needed to have more diversity in the genres that they were promoting, but they said there wasn't an audience for it. So in the end, I thought, you know, put my money where my mouth is. If I really believe in this, then, you know, I need to go for it. And I thought, you know, the musical landscape was changing. Music of black origin in its various guises was providing a high percentage of the annual turnover for the music industry. But largely until the MOBO Awards, there was no vehicle where hip-hop or, you know, R&B could be showcased, or the artists who perform within those genres. So, you know, that was my, you know, I suppose my calling really. I made a decision that this is what I was going to do, and a lot of my friends were very successful musicians, so I started off organising gigs, and this led me into really putting on our first ever major event.
Fantastic. And it's amazing how it's grown and grown. 57 countries, I hear, is the latest count for the Music of Black Origin Awards, which is just incredible.
Yeah, we now, we go out to, it's over 250 million people, and, you know, we get millions and millions of emails from all over the world, and, you know, I've kind of, you know, I've seen lots of events come and go over the years, but I've, you know, each year I've tried to expand it into different territories, and that's where we are today. Which is fantastic.
And so tell me, along all those years, and it has been quite a few years now. How many
years?
years?
12 years.
12 years. So in those 12...
I was very youthful when I started.
You still are. So in those 12 years, I bet there must have been all sorts of ups and downs, highs and lows. What have been the challenges? What have been the good times?
I think nobody can be in business and not have challenges. And I think if we talk about, I suppose, highs, let's start with highs. You know, I've met many highs. I mean, of course, I started the first show, I remortgaged like you did. I don't advocate it, however, but I didn't tell my mum, and I remortgaged my first property. And I decided, you know, to put on, you know, the show within 6 weeks, because after campaigning for many, many years to get a TV slot, I went to see, you know, Carlton Television, and they said, we've got good news and bad news for you. The good news is we're going to give you a slot. The bad news is, you know, we've got no budget and it's going to be in 6 weeks' time. So I thought, you know, listen, if you get an opportunity in life, you've got to go for it. And so I wanted to obviously seize it, you know, seize this and run with it. So I, you know, obviously had to remortgage my place, get the money, and, you know, the first event was a huge success. So that was one of the big kind of achievements, because it was at a time when, you know, there was no MTV base, it's hard to believe, you know, no Channel U, Radio 1 Extra. And, you know, most kind of black programs were late night slots, if indeed they were on television. So there was, you know, there was a huge responsibility. And not only did I want to put on an event that commercially made sense, I wanted it to have high production values. I wanted it, you know, to compete with all the other major events out there, but of course, very limited budget. So that's, I suppose, you know, that's, I suppose, one of the highs. Also, other highs are Goldsmith University. I left school at 16, but then I decided, you know, my mother always said to me, education, education. So I went back, took A-levels, went to Goldsmith University. But of course, I got kicked out because